Hey guys, Casual Crono here. So I finished up Curio's Regret quest chain, and I'm able to repeat some of the bosses. And one of the bosses I killed in an unusual way back over the summer, which I couldn't repeat until now, was the EPS-014 LeBlanc. For this particular boss, I took a different approach. I have Biaka AS, Yipha AS, and Radias AS, and then someone who can set a zone. I just chose Lovely. It doesn't really matter as long as you have someone that can set a zone. And that's mainly so Radius's prominence purge will, it says when set in a zone, when user is hit, heal all party members and restore mana. So this is the general strategy I used. LeBlanc is really annoying because its weaknesses keep changing all the time. Off the bat, one of these worms is weak to fire and one is weak to earth, but that will change over the course of the fight. So the approach I took, Biaka AS has a camouflage and lethal jammer, which basically just puts pain and poison on enemies, and does a lot more damage when you're in active camo. So on turn 1, I'm going to camo. They do have knockback abilities, so you need some character that can prevent knockbacks. I'm using Yipha AS. I would assume other characters that can prevent knockbacks will work as well. So I'm not sure how required Yipha is for this fight. As I said, Lovely's here so she can set a zone. In this case, I'm going to deploy Roaring Bash stance. The monsters have magic and piercing attacks, so Bash and Slash are probably the best two just for damage purposes. And then Radius is going to overwhelm and constantly cast barriers, and she is going to serve basically as a mana battery. You'll notice I do not have any sidekicks. This is just 4-person fight and some Grasta holders in the background. So, with that, I'm in active camo, so I'm going to cast Lethal Jammer. She is going to keep casting the Knockback Immunity. At this point, it doesn't make sense for her to attack because the monsters will absorb some of the damage, so I have one ability that takes very little magic, or magic points. It technically increases power, but I just need something that won't cause any damage because I don't really want to heal the worms back. And she is going to Prominence Purge. Actually, they're already raged. I'm just going to keep overwhelming.
Blessings upon you.
So Lethal Jammer has been set. Radius, when she gets hit, is restoring mana. The worms are slowly starting to die because of the Lethal Jammer. And I'm just going to keep repeating this pattern. Knockback Immunity, something cheap, Lethal Jammer, and Overwhelm. Lethal Jammer, Knockback Immunity, something cheap, and Overwhelm.
Blessings upon you. Not bad. Blessings upon you.
The worms are picking up in their deaths. Overwhelm, something cheap, Knockback Immunity, Lethal Jammer.
Blessings upon you. Take this. Lovely sends her love to all.
And the worms both die. Well, technically they escape. Now you'll notice I have not been restoring mana, so I need to work in a Prominence Purge. Otherwise, I'm going to basically just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and use this turn to Faith Biaka, and she's going to keep casting Lethal Jammer. Anything I can do to kind of speed this up and make Biaka more powerful would be nice. There's my mana regen. Now this is a long-term fight. If you want to skip ahead, you are more than welcome to. Basically, I'm just going to repeat this over and over and over again. Radius keeps the party healthy and keeps the party's mana up, and Biaka is doing the damage.
Take this.
If at some point you skip, in fact, I'll try it just this turn, and Radius gets knocked out, she can move back in again. She'll set /zone in the process, but that's not a big deal. And she wasn't knocked out this time, so let's keep doing what we're doing.
Blessings upon you. This needs more spice.
Overwhelm, something cheap, knockback immunity, lethal jammer.
Blessings upon you.
And you'll notice that poison and pain damage keeps increasing every time I use lethal jammer. Right now I'm at 7 stacks out of 10. So this is stack number 8. And you may have noticed that the damage each turn is getting larger as well.
Blessings upon you.
I'm going to prominence purge just to refresh the rage.
Blessings upon you. Take this.
That does heal the worm just a tiny bit,
Take this.
but not a big deal. If I remember right, the worm has an HP stopper around 50%, and little tiny worms return. It has been a few months since I last fought this. But I saw this technique on YouTube by someone else. I wish I could give them credit. And I apologize if you're out there watching, but they used Biaka's camo and lethal jammer for some other boss. And I'm like, oh, that would probably work on this guy. So, lethal jammer. And let's prominence purge one turn one.
Blessings upon you. Take
Now with 3 worms, that's 3 potential knockbacks, so that is slightly annoying in this fight.
Incinerate.
Overwhelm, something cheap, knockback immunity, and lethal jammer.
Blessings upon you. Love is invincible.
I'm actually not entirely sure how important Radias AS even is to this fight. As long as you have some form of healing and mana regen. If you have Tetra, for example, in the background, and you have a zone that restores mana after every turn, something like that probably could work as well. The only absolute requirement that I can see is AS Biaka, because she's the only character that has camo and the lethal jammer. So you can have any zone setter you want. I just chose someone that has the ability, and it's not a Valor chant. And there's several characters that have Cyclone Wind immunity. Since it's a long-term fight, you just need a good mana regen source.
Blessings upon you. I hear it.
Thinking 1 or 2 more turns will do it for these guys. Okay, so just 1. And then the big one's going to pop out again. And lo and behold, the big one still has his 10 stacks. So let's do an overwhelm.
Blessings upon you.
Rinse and repeat. Lethal Jammer, Cyclone, something cheap. And let's work in a Prominence Purge.
Blessings upon you. Incinerate. I hear it.
Back to Overwhelm, cheap, Cyclone Immunity, Lethal Jammer.
Blessings upon you.
Overwhelm, cheap, Cyclone, Lethal Jammer.
Blessings upon you. Take this.
Now you did see that about a turn ago when I did the Prominence Purge, I didn't have the barrier up, and he did do a decent amount of damage to my team. So if your 4th character, for example, I'm using Lovely right now because she set the bash stance, but if your 4th character can also weaken the boss, that might be a thought for survival purposes. Lethal Jammer, Cyclone, cheap, Overwhelm. We are on turn number 27 already. As I said, this was not a fast fight, but it was fairly easy and straightforward since I had Biaka. Lethal Jammer.
Blessings upon you.
And there we go. I think that was turn number 28. So, let me show you the party really quick. Biaka had her limit breaker. I had a plasma bangle just for some passive mana regen. And I had the pain badge, which increases damage by 20% when the target is pained. The plasma bangle was nothing particularly powerful. It was a +1, so it was giving her like 4 mana per turn. Grasta-wise, she has had 3 Power of Pains, nothing upgraded. So just straight pain. Yipha is my usual Yipha that I use. She had Miyake's Hammer, Plasma Bangle for her own regen, and a Spirit Badge. Grasta-wise, she was still equipped with my Cesta stuff, so she had wind damage improvement and then some resistances. So, Lovely has her Manifest Weapon, a Plasma Necklace. Again, nothing tremendously upgraded. I think it was also a +1. And I had an MP use badge, which reduced consumption by 25%. I did not even give her any Grasta. There was no point. She basically just set the zone, and that was it. And Radius is my typical Radius, a little bit on the overpowered side. So if you don't have all this gear, don't stress about it. As long as she can take the hits, none of the hits were doing more than about 3,000 or 4,000 damage. So you don't need this high of hit points. But basically, Illusion Speed, Elpis Bangle. She has one of the Toto Theater World badges, which gave her an extra 2,000 health. And her Grasta gave her regen and more health, MP consumption and more health, and then more health. And technically an improvement on HP when she was in the reserves. So that's what Radius had. She has 98 light, so the light shadow HP ore are more beneficial than the regular HP ore. And she has close to 11,000 hit points. But as I said, if you have AS Radius and she only has like 5,000, 6,000 health, that's probably all you need, because I did this fight last summer and my Radius was not nearly as bulked up back then, and I still didn't have any trouble with this fight. Back row, all you need are Grasta holders. I wanted to improve Biaka's damage as much as I could, so I had a mace user, and the Grasta I chose. When HP was below 80%, her damage was increased. When she was at max health, her damage was increased, and I gave her regen to try and make sure she stayed at max health. So that was this hammer user's purpose. You could have any hammer user in the world. I chose a bot. And then I had Aldo, not to help with Biaka, but he had basically one Grasta that gave an extra 300 health to Radius, which helps with her shield as well. So the others didn't really matter because Radius was not attacking. So really, I could have had a bot sword user with that in the background. I just happened to have Aldo, and everyone has Aldo, so, you know, why not? Sidekick-wise, I had no sidekicks for that fight. It was just Biaka poisoning things to death, and Radius keeping the team alive. So anyway, a somewhat unusual method for killing that particular boss. And I've used it on a few other bosses, including some bounties, when I was doing bounty hunting in the Hollow world. So just another possible technique for you to use if you happen to have Biaka AS. Ooh, shiny. Anyway, hope this helps. Casual Crono, signing out.